Welcome to Disciple Dojo. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at my top seven recommended books on the book of Revelation. Longtime Dojo viewers know not only do we have an entire course here that walks through the book of Revelation, but Revelation is my favorite book in the New Testament to teach by far. It's the most misunderstood book in the Bible. It's the most abused book in the Bible. It's the most needlessly intimidating book in the Bible, but it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite books in the entire Bible. And part of why Revelation is so hard to wrap our minds around is because it's like trying to decipher a political cartoon from a newspaper in another country, in another language, in another culture entirely. We talk about this in a video here on the channel where I share about when I was in India looking at one of their political cartoons. I could make no sense of it whatsoever. And then my liaison looked at it and he said, "Oh, okay, yeah, these are Hindu folklore figures that pretty much every Indian kid grows up knowing. And this is the current situation politically here in the country. And that's what this is referencing." And so once he explained it and then he translated all the little labels on the cartoon, it made perfect sense to me. Well, Revelation is a lot like that. If we don't have somebody giving us the culture, the history, the background, and even the language itself, then we end up reading all kinds of crazy stuff into Revelation, or we just throw up our hands and say, who can understand this, and walk away from it. So in this video, I'm going to recommend 7 books that will help you if you want to know what the book of Revelation is saying, and more importantly, if you want to know what it's not saying, and to kind of wade through the ocean of foolishness out there, especially here on YouTube, having to do with Revelation, then these are my 7 picks. Now, before we start, I'm going to give 2 honorable mentions. These aren't part of the 7. There are 2 resources that I want to recommend, and they present different overall views of Revelation for you to see how different interpreters read the book differently. The first one is Zondervan's 4 views on the book of Revelation in their Counterpoint series. This lets advocates of the preterist view, the idealist view, the classic dispensationalist view, and then the progressive dispensationalist view interact with each other. It only presents those 4. There are a couple that they left out. They didn't include a historicist, for instance, or an eclectic. So it's not, that's why I can't put it in the top 7, but it is helpful for wading into why there's disagreement on the book. And then the other one that I'll recommend, and this one is a commentary, but it's a unique commentary because it's a parallel commentary. This is Steve Gregg's Revelation 4 Views, a parallel commentary. And I'll show you what I mean by that. When you open it up, it has an introduction, and then all of the sections of Revelation, it gives 4 different interpretations. The historicist view is always in the left column. Then the preterist view is in the center column on the left-hand page. Then the futurist view is the center column on the right-hand page. These are sort of mirror opposites of each other. And then what they call the spiritual view, some might call it the idealist view. I think that's what Zondervan Counterpoint calls it, on the far right-hand column. And these are sort of polar opposites of each other. So this is a helpful study for walking through section by section of Revelation and seeing how the different schools of interpretation interpret specific passages in the book. So these, just honorable mention, you should know about these, and both of these are worth reading. This one especially is worth having on the shelf if you're studying through, or especially if you're teaching or preaching through the book of Revelation. Speaking of Revelation, that's the design for one of our Disciple Dojo t-shirts here. This is "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain." So it has the text of Revelation, "Worthy is the Lamb, the one having been slaughtered," or having been slain. This shirt is available in our Disciple Dojo store, so check the link down below. Every video description always link to our Disciple Dojo store. We don't make a ton off of it, but if you want to pick up some of our designs, then that's where you do it. All right, let's get into my 7 recommended books on the book of Revelation. We're going to start with Kindle resources. And the first one I'm going to recommend is Michael Gorman's book, Reading Revelation Responsibly: Uncivil Worship and Witness, Following the Lamb into the New Creation. This is one of the books that I made required reading in my Revelation course. And here's what you find in it. After the prelude, then the chapters are the puzzle, the problem, and the promise of Revelation. What are we reading? The form of Revelation. What are we reading? The substance of Revelation. How do we read it? Interpreting Revelation. 7 pastoral prophetic messages from the risen Lord. The central and centering vision, God and the Lamb. Conflicting characters, the drama of Revelation. Visions of the judgment of God. Final vision, hope fulfilled, new heaven, new earth, new city. Following the Lamb, the spirituality of Revelation, and then the postlude, reading Revelation responsibly, a reprise. Gorman's book is not very long in print. It's only, like maybe 200 or so pages. It's readable, and it is super convicting, particularly for American audiences of Revelation. You will be challenged by Gorman because Revelation challenges a lot of what we hold sacred, a lot of the civil and secular authority, quasi-religious institutions that we value, that we hold so dear and sacrosanct. Gorman pushes back. He says, look, Revelation lifts the veil on a lot of this stuff. And so his message, the message of Revelation and what Gorman is trying to lead readers through, is incredibly challenging in all the best ways. You may come away not agreeing with everything you read in it. That's fine. Just read it. It is well worth it. The next book I would recommend, number 2, also on my Kindle is, and I don't know why on Kindle the cover is showing up in black and white. It's a color cover, but this is Craig Koester's book, Revelation and the End of All Things. Now, Koester wrote the larger Revelation commentary in Yale's Anchor Bible series, but this is a condensed, it's sort of a commentary in that it walks you through the book. So yeah, you could say it's technically a commentary, but it's written at a popular level. It's not a technical commentary. It's more, I read it more like a devotional. Read a section of the text and then read his discussion of that section. It breaks it up into chunks. He does a masterful job showing the cyclical structure of the book. If you've seen our course here, Revelation, A Guided Tour of the Apocalypse, I follow the structure that Koester put forth in this book because I think it makes the most sense, alternating between heaven and earth and going through these 7 cycles. It's just a wonderful book. This is probably, I debated if I put this or Gorman first. It's a coin toss. Both are excellent. This one is not specifically geared towards modern American readers as much as Gorman's is. Gorman's is a more general study of Revelation thematically. Koester's is a walk through the book section by section. And so you can see from the contents, part 1, interpreting the mystery. So future prediction or timeless truth, history, politics, and reform, apocalyptic fever, disappointment, and tragedy, rapture, tribulation, and Armageddon, historical study of Revelation, silence or song, venturing forward. So these are all of the sort of prolegomena, the things to get out of the way before diving into the book. Then it goes section by section. Christ in the churches is Revelation 1 through 3. The scroll unsealed, Revelation 4 through 7. Trumpets of terror and hope, Revelation 8 through 11. The beast and the lamb, Revelation 12 through 15. The harlot and the bride, Revelation 15 through 19. And then the end, Revelation 19 through 22. So Craig Koester, Revelation and the End of All Things. That's my next recommendation. Now we move into print resources. And next up, I'm going to recommend, this one is a devotional meant to be read over 3 months. And creatively, it is entitled 3 Months with Revelation. This is by Justo Gonzalez. It's short and readable, intended for popular audiences, and it just goes through the book in sections over a 13-week period. Chapters 1 through 3, chapters 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9. It's broken up by weeks. So here's week 1, and it's also has daily reading. So the first day, read Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. The second day, Revelation chapter 1, verses 4 through 6. So you're getting daily readings. It doesn't include the text of Revelation in here, so you'd have to read this along with your Bible. But then the sections for each day are broken up into see, which is like what you're going to see in the text, like notice this stuff. Then judge, think about the text, consider the text. And then the last section is act. Now, what do we do in light of what we've read? So this is a great study. You could do this. I've recommended this to small groups. You could also do it on your own as an individual reading. So check it out. 3 Months with Revelation, Justo Gonzalez. The fourth book that I will recommend is my good friend Dr. David DeSilva's book, Unholy Allegiances, Heeding Revelation's Warning. This is similar to Gorman's work, but a little more narrow in its focus. And mainly what DeSilva brings out is the warning that Revelation presents to people who are enamored by empire and power. These beleaguered churches, these 7 churches that Revelation was written to, they were inundated with socio-political propaganda and ideology of the Roman Empire. And revelation is, again, the word revelation means to, which is where we get the word reveal, to pull back the curtain. Apocalypsis means to lift the veil. Revelation is lifting the veil to these churches and saying, this is what you're hearing and what you believe about the world you live in, but this is the truth about that world through the eyes of heaven. DeSilva breaks it up into 5 sections. Chapter 1, debunking popular myths about Revelation. Chapter 2, divine emperor, eternal Rome, the public story about Roman imperialism. Chapter 3, the true sinner and the unholy scam, John's biblical critique of the public story. Chapter 4, looking at the immediate in light of the infinite. The 7 oracles to the churches of Asia. And in a couple of months, David and I are going to be taking 23 of you, Dojo viewers, on our trip to see these 7 churches in Asia Minor in person. Spend a week over there. I am so excited about that. This is the book that the attendees of that trip are going to be reading. And then chapter 5, John's proclamation of the one who is, who was, and is coming. So this book is short, not even 150 pages. It's readable. Anyone can pick it up, and this is another book that it'll challenge you. It is absolutely worth reading and being challenged by in all the right ways. Unholy Allegiances, David DeSilva. That's my 4th recommendation. My 5th recommendation is Paul Spilsbury's book, A Reader's Guide to the Book of Revelation, The Throne, the Lamb, and the Dragon. J.I. Packer wrote the foreword. I got to meet Paul at SBL last year. I read this book over 20 years ago. This is probably, of all the books that I've recommended so far, this is the most basic introductory. Like if you are just starting out studying Revelation, or you're scared to study Revelation, but you think you should, this would be the first book I would point you to because it's the most basic. It's just 7 chapters, reading Revelation, holding it together, the throne, the lamb, the dragon, wrath and judgment, no more tears. Another short book, less than 150 pages. Actually, I take that back. It's 155 pages, 156 if you include the index. But this is easily readable. Anyone could pick this up and jump right in and start having your mind blown by the book of Revelation. So, book number 5, The Throne, the Lamb, and the Dragon by Paul Spilsbury. Book number 6 that I would recommend, another introduction. This one is a little harder to find. I think it's out of print. I don't know if it's back in print or not yet, but this is Robert Lowery's book, Revelation's Rhapsody, Listening to the Lyrics of the Lamb. And he treats Revelation like an orchestral piece, like a symphony with movements, themes, melodies, harmonies, all that kind. He uses the analogy of a musical piece to walk readers through the book of Revelation. And so in chapter 1, you have the overture, my strategy. Chapter 2, listening to the lyrics, the scriptural stage. Chapter 3, listening to the lyrics, the storied setting. Chapter 4, listening to the lyrics, the style. Chapter 5, listening to the lyrics, the sources. Chapter 6, listening to the lyrics, the symbolism. Chapter 7, listening to the lyrics, the structure. Then there's an epilogue, an invitation to listening to the lyrics of the Lamb for eternity. Then there's 3 appendices. Appendix A, Old Testament allusions in Revelation. Appendix B, a key to select symbols in Revelation. Appendix C, recommended commentaries. This came out in 2006, so almost 20 years ago. I read it when it first came out. It's great. This is, again, written for popular audiences. This is not a technical commentary, but it is a very good book. I'm not sure if it's still in print. If not, find it anywhere that you buy used books. Well worth it. Revelation's Rhapsody by Robert Lowery. And finally, my 7th recommendation. Once again, this is my channel. I'm going to bend the rules a little bit. I'm going to recommend 2 books, but they're by the same author. And that is The Theology of the Book of Revelation and The Climax of Prophecy. These are both by Richard Bauckham. These are not for people who are not already familiar with biblical studies. They are written at a level for academic readers, and they're widely varying in their length. So the theology of the book of Revelation, this is in the New Testament theology series from Cambridge Press. That is why this will be expensive if you try to buy a copy. So I recommend checking one out or seeing if you can find it affordably digitally. You can get the paperback, but for a book this short, you're going to pay a lot more money than you would a typical paperback because it is from Cambridge University Press. That's just how it is. But this is where Paul Spilsbury pulls a lot. In fact, you could argue that Spilsbury's book is a popularization of Bauckham's theology of the book of Revelation. I think that's a fair description of it that Spilsbury himself admits in the foreword to his work. But it's just 7 chapters reading the book of Revelation, the one who is and who was and who is to come, the Lamb on the throne, the victory of the Lamb and his followers, the spirit of prophecy, the New Jerusalem, and then Revelation for today. It's not a long book, only 169 pages, but it is dense. This is one of those that's deceptively simple and small looking. If you judge this book by its cover, you will be missing out on one of the better books of Revelation, and especially the overall theology. What is Revelation teaching at a big picture level? This is a must read in the field of Revelation studies. But if this is not deep enough for you, if this is not scholarly enough for you, then you're going to want to read Climax of Prophecy, Studies on the Book of Revelation. These are a collection of studies that Bauckham has written. It's published by T&T Clark, also not cheap. If you find this online, just be ready for some sticker shock. But this is academic study of Revelation at the highest level. The chapters are Structure and Composition. Chapter 2, The Use of Apocalyptic Traditions. Chapter 3, Synoptic Parousia Parables in the Apocalypse. Chapter 4, The Worship of Jesus. Chapter 5, The Role of the Spirit. And Bauckham has done some of the best work on Jesus worship. His book, I think, Jesus and the God of Israel, formerly it was entitled God Crucified. That's what the version I read. It's been updated to Jesus and the God of Israel, is absolutely phenomenal. And he ties it in because Revelation is one of the most Trinitarian, like the view of Jesus in Revelation is higher than any book of Jesus in the Bible. I mean, he occupies the very throne of God in Revelation. And so Revelation provides a lens by which we look back at the New Testament and read passages and it gives them new light, which is what Revelation is intended to do. It's intended to pull back the veil, to reveal, and it's the revelation, apocalypsis of Jesus. That's what Revelation is intended to reveal. So Bauckham he's a giant in this field, and you can't be a scholar of Revelation and not engage with the work of Richard Bauckham. Chapter 6, The Lion, the Lamb, and the Dragon. Chapter 7, The Eschatological Earthquake. Chapter 8 is fascinating. The Apocalypse as a Christian War Scroll. He compares the writings of Qumran, their apocalyptic literature, and says Revelation is giving the Christian version of the War Scroll of Qumran. Chapter 9, The Conversion of the Nations. Chapter 10, The Economic Critique of Rome in Revelation 18. That's another incredibly convicting chapter for any modern Western reader. And then chapter 11, Nero and the Beast. And that's where he goes in depth on gematria, the ancient concepts, how numbers were used, the different types of numbers, triangular numbers, square numbers. He gives some examples because the ancients were fascinated with gematria and all of the different things you could do when your alphabet is also your numerals. And in Hebrew and in Greek, they used the alphabet to denote numbers. They didn't have separate numbers and then letters like we do today. So there's a lot of stuff going on with the numbers, and Bauckham goes deep into it. So even if you don't find yourself convinced by every point he's making and saying, yes, this is applicable to what we see in Scripture, it's still something that you need to wrestle with and need to, at the very least, be aware of just how deep the rabbit hole goes, particularly when reading apocalyptic literature. So my final 2 recommendations, Theology of the Book of Revelation and The Climax of Prophecy, both by Richard Bauckham. So there you go. These are my 7 recommendations, a couple of honorable mentions as well. There are others. This was a hard list, actually, to come up with. There were a few that I really debated putting on here, but in the end, it would have been a top 10 list instead of a top 7. And it also doesn't even include commentaries, other than the parallel commentary, that is, because that would be a whole other video in and of itself. If you are interested in studying Revelation, but this is intimidating to you, that's where Disciple Dojo wants to help. We have a playlist here on the channel of more recent videos that I've done, unpacking the book of Revelation, dispelling some of the weirdness around it, getting viewers into the book, our Understanding the Book of Revelation playlist. And then we have an entire course here at Disciple Dojo. I'll link that as well. There's a downloadable workbook. You download it in PDF. It includes my working translation, walking you through the book, showing you these are the Old Testament references, kind of laying it out so you can see visually on the page how the book unfolds, with a section, the margin section to take notes in. That's all in the workbook, the PDF. It's free. It's on the Disciple Dojo website. It's not here on YouTube. So look in the video description down below for that. Now, let me make a disclaimer. That was a course I taught at a church down in Georgia over a decade ago. So the audio video quality, it was taught live. I had a handheld mic. It was not done with studio quality lighting and audio and all of that. It was taught a long time ago, but it's absolutely free, and it can be done as a small group study or individually. Each video section is about 20 to 40 minutes long. So you could watch a section or two with a small group and then afterwards talk about it while you follow along in the PDF workbook. So there's just the resources here at Disciple Dojo that we have. They're entirely free, like everything that we do at Disciple Dojo. They're completely free, available online. And the way we're able to do that is by our monthly dojo donors. Those of you who believe in this ministry enough to say, yes, I will give X number of dollars a month to help ensure that this channel stays going, that this teaching remains free. If you would like to do that, there's a link right here on the screen where you can become a dojo donor, whatever dollar amount. I don't see who gives what. That's handled by our board, our finance director. But if you do become a monthly dojo donor, send me a message via the contact form on the website, my email, and I would love to send you one of our iron-on patches. Just let me know if you want the light or the dark patch, and I'd love to get you one of these just as a simple thank you for being a supporter and for enabling everything we do at this ministry. That'll do it for now. Hope this was helpful. If it was, love for you to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that normal YouTube-y stuff, and stay tuned for more here at Disciple Dojo. In the meantime, as always, keep training.